Folks, director Todd Field has just released a new film, Tar, starring Cate Blanchett. Let's talk about it. All right, folks, so Tar is, if you don't know, a film about composer Lydia Tarr, and this is actually really funny because even after I saw the film, I thought she was a real person. I don't know what gave me that impression, but I saw people talk about her online as though she was real, and I guess that's just my fault completely for not ever doing the due diligence of checking myself. But I assumed she was real. I told people she was real. I felt pretty embarrassed afterwards about that one. But look, the film, and it goes to show how good this film is at fulfilling its purpose, and I'll get into that, what that is, that I believed she was real, that she was a real person, because, yeah, it does such a good job of presenting this character. So anyways, Tar is a film about this composer, Lydia Tarr, who, hard to describe. She's very well-known, well-liked, and she's got some problems that unfold throughout the film, and I don't want to say much more than that in case you want to see it. I might do a bit of a spoiler section just somewhere later on in the video, but I want to get into things I liked and didn't like about the film. For starters, the craft here is impeccable, okay? You have, look, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite by any means because Todd Field uses a lot of static shots, meaning in conversational scenes, the camera's not moving. It's not doing anything fancy or special. It's shot, reverse shot, and the shot will hang on a person for a really long time, and it's obviously intentional. And the performance is because Todd Field wants you to really focus on these performances. And so when you just frame the camera at an actress like Cate Blanchett, who is just giving this phenomenal performance, and I really will praise this even more later in the video. You frame the camera at her and just watch every little movement she makes, every twitch of the mouth, every eye movement. I mean, good God, literally everything she's doing is on full display and intentional and purposeful and clearly rehearsed, and just genius little touches that give this performance extra life. And so, but there still is a problem when you hang on it for too long, and it's just a human attention span. You can't fully focus on something for just without any extra. I mean, maybe this is just me. I don't want to speak for everybody. But I found myself really being engaged, but there are just times where I will dip out of engagement just because I'm staring at the same thing for so long. I need something to feed on a little bit. Besides the performance, which is great. But even then, it's a lot. It's a lot. But then, yeah, even there are moments, my favorite scene of the film is a one take. It's a one take, or pretty early on. And it's just phenomenal. It goes on for God knows how long, maybe 10 minutes. Maybe that's over estimation. But it follows Cate Blanchett throughout this auditorium, and it is just absolutely brilliantly staged. She goes on the piano and on the stage, and you look at the person she's talking to, and she walks through the bleachers, and it is just so brilliantly shot. And so there's moments like that where obviously Todd Field breaks the static elements of the camera and gives us something like that. And then let's talk performances. And there are good ones in here. Pretty much everyone is doing a good job. But obviously the standout is Cate Blanchett, who gives a brilliant performance. I will say a lot of people are hyperbolizing it. I think it is very good. I do not think it's an all-timer performance. I don't know that I would even say it's her best, frankly. But it is a very good performance, and you don't see performances like this from actors who just drop this like every performance, really. Cate Blanchett is on a level of her own where she's giving these kinds of performances, really every film. And so phenomenal actress who does an excellent job here. She will certainly get nominated for an Oscar at this point, I'm convinced. The win, contested. I'll say that. So here's the interesting thing about this film. And it really depends. Whether you like it is depending on the kinds of films you like to watch. And I believe there are many purposes for film. One common one is to enjoy them. That's the bulk of the films I watch are for enjoyment purposes. I like to enjoy watching a film. There are films that are watched to transport you to another world, to another story, to another experience. And I think of a film like Nomadland, which was not a film that I sat down to enjoy. I watched it twice. It's not a film I sat down to enjoy. It's a film I sat down to appreciate because the craft is impeccable, and just the way it's able to tell this story of a whole nother perspective that I just had never considered was brilliant. Brilliant filmmaking, and something that absolutely the medium should be used towards. And then there's this kind of film, which is almost a puzzle. It's a film that you have to really think about. It is not meant to be an easy, digestible watch. If you're going into this film thinking you're going to get it, you're going to understand everything, you're going to follow the storyline completely, then you're not. That's just not going to happen. This is a film that is difficult to understand purposefully. It feels like you're watching something unfold, and you just need to make meaning out of it. And if you don't like that, if you like your meaning given to you by a film, which I can understand, there are certainly times when it's better for a theme to be more clear, then you're not going to enjoy this film. But I appreciated treating it as a complex challenge, something to really consider every aspect of the film. Because every choice is intentional, and there are some things you're scratching your head at, you're puzzled. Every line of dialogue, every shot in which characters are framed a certain way, in which objects are framed a certain way, and you won't catch them all. I probably did not catch 10% of them. But the important thing is that there was a challenge there. And as long as you know that going into the film, that you will be challenged, that this is not an easy watch or one that you will immediately understand, but that you do actually have to constantly be thinking about it the entire time you watch. You can't turn your brain off. You got to think and process and everything you see. That's the film you're getting. That being said, I do prefer my films linear. I really am a story guy. I absolutely love the story of a film. I think that's where a film lives or dies, in its story. This film is, it's light on it. And the reason is because it doesn't follow a traditional narrative structure. So you're just looking at this person's life as things happen to her. And it feels like a real examination of a person's life because of that. Like, it absolutely succeeds. That's what it's going for. But it is it's not a traditional biopic. It's not something you watch and then this thing happens to her and you're like, oh, I'm following this story. This is really hard to describe if you haven't seen the film. You're not getting a Steve Jobs. You're not getting a, what are other biopics? God's sakes. You're just not. You're getting this experimental examination of a person's life, and you're just expected to make sense of it. I personally don't love films like that. I liked the challenge, just slightly. I liked the challenge, but I certainly would have preferred just a traditional biopic. And I'm sorry, that's my preference. I tend to prefer films like that. But I am glad this exists. I'm glad films like this are being made, and I did appreciate the experience more than anything else. But it was certainly not a film I enjoyed. And then lastly, tacked on to that, it is a very, very long film. It just did not end and kept going for 2 hours and 40 minutes. And look, I understand a lot of people love this film. I don't particularly understand loving it. I do understand it. I just personally do not love it. I can see why people would love this film. And it is a spectacular achievement that I would recommend for somebody who either wants to try a new kind of film, an experimental thing that they really have to think about, or that's really the only group of people I would recommend this for. Don't go into it thinking it's some traditional narrative story, because it's not. All right, folks, so that's my review of Tar. I hope I made even the slightest bit of sense, because this film really is a lot to process, and you can only really know if you've seen the film. I have been EDPC Reviews. You have just been the absolute best. I will see you